Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the town. We are your effervescent hosts, your neighborhood-friendly Kiwi, Tash from Middle-earth, New Zealand.
And Patty, Regency romance enthusiast, whose current chapter of her story takes place in Ohio.
Settle down onto your favorite settee as we dive into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the ton. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and deep diving into the connections of our favorite characters. This podcast covers both book and TV series and therefore will contain spoilers.
Listeners, tonight we're back at the side stories of episode 2. The Mondricks are attending their first ball, and we start to see how Eloise begins trying to expand her circle of friends. Is Cressida not filling Penelope's shoes? We also see Francesca stumbling into the clutches of Lady Danbury to get the Queen's favor when she decidedly did not want it.
Now, just a side note, before we get into today's episode, I do have a cold at the moment, so my voice will sound a little bit scratchy. So apologies for that.
And I have allergies. Woohoo!
We're a right pair. It's one of those absolute mum weeks for me where my husband has a chest infection, my son was sick and vomiting with a fever, and I have a cold. So the trifecta. Joys.
Real life, real life.
Well, where's my sorrows, prayers, Patty?
Oh, sorrows, prayers. I need to pat your head. Sorrows, prayers.
Now we must make haste into today's episode. Now, we are going to start out today's episode by discussing the Mondrick family yet again, this time focusing on Miss Alice and her unfortunate clothing choices from
I'm gonna say it like you say about your son. Poor little sausage.
Poor little well, I mean, she is a poor little sausage because she is cased so tightly into those arms that she is immovable. Is it a dress? Is it a straight jacket? It is everything.
Well, and I think that's the whole point of it, because she's trying to fit
She feels trapped.
And she's not meant to fit in. So the dress doesn't fit. Like, she's legitimately trying to put herself in the place of Lady Kent and be what Lady Kent was for the ton. She is afraid of rocking the boat. But the Mondricks have always been people that, you know, were a little more entertaining. They are performers. I mean, especially Will, but, you know, Alice married Will. So she's not exactly...
I think she is the head on the shoulders to the head in the clouds kind of wife, as in, like, he likes to live with his head in the clouds a little bit, and she kind of grounds him and they balance each other well.
Yes, but she's not a background kind of wife either.
No.
So she is really struggling with she is afraid of what people are going to think of her when she officially enters society. And we get to see just how uncomfortable she is here.
And I think as a mother, it's a whole other level of pressure as well, because she hasn't been bestowed the title. Her son has. And
yes,
in a world where men get everything and are given everything, she feels like she has, yes, her son has been given the thing, but she has been given all the pressure and expectation because a lady is meant to, or not that she's a lady, technically, she is the mother of a lord, but women are the ones who are expected to put on to host the events and to bring the family into society, and like kind of, you know, like Violet. Edmund's been gone for a really long time. And yes, a lot of the standing that they have in society is due to how old their lineage is, but for a lot of the part, it's due to Violet herself and how likable she is. So, and we see it with Lady Featherington. If you
that was going to be my point.
Yeah, if you don't fit into the balance of society, you will be ostracized for it. And she's afraid of any misstep that she might take that will then cost her son in the future.
And that's the rub. That's the mom pressure, because she doesn't see this as a blessing for herself. She doesn't want to touch anything in the house. Yeah. She wants everything to remain as it is. They are interlopers. She feels like interlopers. It's her son's home. It's her son's blessing. It's not hers, but she can absolutely lose it for them. And she's concerned about that. It would be like finding out your son is, and this is for Americans, you know, I mean, finding out your son gets to go to Harvard, but then you end up having one too many at a party or at a restaurant, and somebody from the decisions committee is there and sees your behavior and then waitlists your kid. Like that's what she's concerned about. And Lady Featherington is not. And look at what her daughters had to go through because she didn't comport herself in a way. Like she talks about, she's so concerned about making sure they did better than she did, but she didn't study society and she didn't learn what was appropriate and what wasn't. And she just comported herself in any old way, to where she actually hurt all of her.
And this is that saying that Madame Delacroix used the other day, the nouveau riche. You said it was the pronunciation?
Yeah, nouveau riche, like with a SH, but it's the CH makes a SH.
Thank you. Nouveau riche. Sorry, it's just not sinking into my brain. When you learn something a certain way, and no matter how many times someone corrects it, your brain has already set it into how it was. Riche. Okay, yeah. So
yeah, but you're looking at it, and it's the CH, and we all say rich. So you are not the only person.
There's no if it had the French, what do you call it?
The little
dashy dash
thingy.
If it had the
thing above the E or whatever.
If I had the little dashy dash above the E, then I would pronounce it that way because then I'm like, okay, it's French. And I already know it is French looking at the spelling, but that little dashy dash would be what would change it to that sound from a phonics point of view. So when I look at it from a phonics point of view, that, it doesn't make sense. But I think it's supposed to have that little...
As we spend 3 to 5 minutes explaining our brains to people. I would absolutely say it this way. Like, yeah.
A little phonics lesson for the day.
Like, and that's when you have a very analytical brain, the littlest, tiniest thing completely changes everything sometimes.
I got a very inappropriate title given to me from a literature professor at university because of how fixated I get on certain pronunciations and certain things. And
I bet
they shamed me because I said that I dumped a boy for it when I was young.
Wow. I don't, but yeah, I think there's some things like I really struggle with, like if you're going to take the time to make a meme, and I'll tell anybody who's in our Facebook group, if you're listening, if I post a meme and there is a grammatical error, there is a misspelling, I missed an Oxford comma, you need to let me know so I can fix it.
You know what? The most frustrating thing is when I post to the Bridgerton pages and I write it in such a rush because I'm excited, but it's got to get post approval. And then I'm like, oh no, I've posted this and I've got spelling errors or something in it. And then someone says, you can edit it, but there's a whole bunch of them. About 80% of them require edit approval as well as post approval. Mm-hmm. So if you edit it, you then have to go back through the approval stage again, which stops anyone from being able to comment on
see the content,
which is just frustrating. So I'm sitting there like in a little ball of like, oh Lord, I've made this mistake. And then I once had someone be like, well, I would never listen to a podcast that can't even, write grammatically correct. And I'm like,
somebody said that to you in a comment?
Yeah. And I'm like, wow. Do you want me to rage quit you? Like,
That's rude of someone, though. I mean, if you're listening to the podcast, it was rude.
You can call me so many names, but if you call me dumb or illiterate or like...
Right, do not call me dumb. Do not call me unintelligent. It is absolutely,
And do not call Colin unintelligent either. We will come for you.
Yes. And that is probably why I relate to him. So that's probably why I'm so adamant about that.
Galloping
because I
back
relate
to
to
the
him
Nouveau
so much. Nouveau riche, yeah.
Galloping back to the Nouveau riche. Portia. Oh, what was my original point at this point?
Portia is
okay. So and even like I follow a few different pages, and one of the pages that I follow is someone who did concierge service for hotels for years or flight attendants and that, and they said you can always tell old money from new money. Because old money come in and a lot of the time they are completely unassuming. They are very polite. They are raised politely. They follow all the protocols. Whereas a lot of the time with newly wealthy families, or more likely children of wealthy parents come in and they are entitled and snobby and they expect the world because of their funds, as if like it elevates them above everyone else in society. And I think that's kind of what Portia is compared to the others. The others have solidified their place in the ton and they are secure in that. Like, look at Lady Danbury. She is one of the wealthiest and most elite families, women in the ton, and she even has the Queen's favor, but you do not see her comporting herself around town trying to throw her power and wealth and influence at others. She is completely unassuming.
She's sneaky. She's sneaky.
Yeah.
She totally knows Francesca does not want to be
like, she is just as much of a meddling, she's just as much of a meddling mama as what Portia is, but she does it in a respectful manner.
I don't even see Portia as a meddler. The difference is having forethought versus being reactionary. Portia's very reactionary, and you can see who is, and Penelope, I think the biggest character arc for me this season for her was when she chose to have forethought and she chose to plan something out first, which was the Lady Whistledown reveal. Like, she finally chose to look ahead. And I mean, she looked ahead when she first started Whistledown, because I think she knew she was going to have to save her family someday. I think she felt that pressure at a very young age. And she's like, well, if anything, I'm going to be socking away money under my floorboards. And push comes to shove, like, if something happens to us, we'll have money. And I think that's, she wanted to feel secure and she didn't. So she found a way to be secure, but I don't think she really thought ahead with it that much. I don't think she ever thought she'd have that kind of wealth or that kind of power. I just think she wanted to write and she wrote, and it was an outlet for her. And she didn't know how to handle the fame. She became books, reactionary.
It was completely different. And we will talk about that another day. But for now, we need to stay on track because we haven't even gotten through 1 point, Patty. Not 1 point.
I know. But what I'm saying is, like, in terms of Portia is always reactionary. She does not think ahead. She barrels in and she does something. And she even calls herself out when she has the scene with Penelope where I can't even say makes up, but she kind of gives Penelope her flowers, but she says there may have been other paths, but I just didn't see them at the time. But it's because she's so reactionary and she almost always handles a situation from fight or flight mode. So we're kind of seeing Alice similarly. Like, she doesn't know what to expect. This is their first night out in society. And, she wants to have forethought. She wants to think everything through, but she's thinking through all of the possible negative outcomes.
Go for the safe option.
Yes. She wants to go for the safe option. And, whenever we do the pod episode where we try and figure out every rom-com, there is a rom-com out there. And if anybody knows it, post it in the group. There's a rom-com out there that has the very same scene. I know I've seen it, where somebody has worn these certain outfits and they finally come out in this new, like, hot outfit or whatever. And people call them out for it, but in like a snobby, like, oh my gosh, look at your outfit or whatever. Not there is a rom-com. Something. I don't know. I've seen so many rom-coms, they all blend together.
I wonder whether we're going to get any like Made in Manhattan kind of a moment with season 4.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to go rom-com again. I mean, but they really did stitch some scenes. They stitched them right out of their movie and put them into this show.
They did. But I think as well for Alice, she doesn't feel entitled to touch that money because it does not belong to her. It belongs to her son. So she does not feel comfortable using that money for her own. And it's such a mum thing, like, especially if, like, myself, we're a single income family. And I, since having my son, feel guilty ever spending money on myself because, oh, well, what if that is something that could benefit the family?
Same.
Yeah. Didn't get to the mic on time on that one.
And I want to talk about what, and I don't think we'll get to it in this episode because it's after the ball, but when they come home and they're having Will and Alice are having the conversation of, we don't have to completely fit the mold, we can pick and choose, because Will has taken Benedict's words to heart.
Those notes are in the next.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think that how Alice feels in this moment, how she feels regarding this title and this money and this wealth is exactly how we should be reading how Colin feels with Penelope, not feeling like he hasn't earned it. But apparently that's the next section.
Yes. So, all right. So the only thing that, Alice is going, getting dressed by her ladies' maids. And the only thing that she is willing to kind of accept that is an absolute decadence, and the first decadence that she's truly had in her life, is discovering that Lady Kent has a phenomenal jewelry collection.
And I think it's important too that she says, we didn't agree on garment, but Lady Kent certainly had an eye for jewel. And what is the main concept of this whole show is the queen finding a diamond every year. Yeah. And this particular season, they're talking about diamonds are not the only jewel out there.
Yes, I was going to say there's a lot of colors to the rainbow this season, as we'll put.
Yeah, there's not. Well, I mean, I think the queen in her ton really has a handful of jewels.
Well, and that kind of goes along with the inclusivity that we have in Bridgerton. Diamonds are very white. They're very typically a white, sparkly gem. And I think part of like really, really digging into, the whole looking at other looking at other gemstones and all those kind of things, it's all this underpinning message of there are many shades of beautiful jewels out there. Appreciate them all. It doesn't have to be a diamond for it to be.
Well, and even the way that Whistledown has talked about the debutantes this season as well, like why, almost like she's afraid to pick somebody, but why? There's so many out here
we've got Miss Malhotra, who's Indian. We've got Miss Mary Hallowell, who is
of San Francisco. No, I'm kidding.
She is of Asian descent. We've got Miss Livingston, who I'm not entirely sure, but she does have like I'm actually curious of her national. Oh yes, my parents
are giving me a
copy. Yes.
I'm not sure,
but I mean, regardless, she looks like she has a Mediterranean European kind of heritage to her. Not Greek, but somewhere in that vicinity.
Yeah.
And even her mom does as well. So we have
her mom looks very like
we have
Sicilian. I would say Sicilian. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then we also not only have color inclusivity this season, but we also got an amazing range of
sizes.
Not just that.
And abilities.
I was trying to think, is there a way to phrase that? We have a deaf mama, which is...
so we have a coda. Miss Stowell is a coda. She's
Miss Stowell.
A child of a deaf adult.
Yeah. So we have Miss Stowell, Mrs. Stowell, Lady Stowell. Lady
Stowell is deaf. So Miss Stowell is a coda. She's a child of a deaf adult.
Yeah. And then we've got Lord Remington, who is in a wheelchair, and I love that they included a very I haven't actually looked up if the wheelchair was accurate to the timepiece, but it certainly looks the part
it looked close.
Yeah, so I loved that we had a lot of inclusivity this season, not just in ethnicity, but in shape, size, color, ability, everything. We had a really, really good inclusivity this season.
Because truth be told, in Regency times,
you were blonde,
Lady Stowell would have not become a lady. She wouldn't have been launched on society. She would have probably been in an asylum, a special school. A lot of families
even in the
weren't
books
equipped, or they didn't take care of their children that were...
Was it a Smith? No, it was what is it? Gareth, who was engaged to the neighbor, his daughter, whom had the mind of a child, and he's like, I will not. I'm not remembering that.
No, it was an arranged marriage or something like that. But
he refused.
Yeah, they had arranged it when they were little, but they didn't know that she was going to have that cognitive impairment.
No. That's why it was arranged, because his dad was massively in debt, and the neighbor knew that he could never have his daughter married off, so he made a business.
It's been a while since I read that one.
Yeah, he made a business arrangement with Lord something, St. Clair, that he will pay off his debts if his second son marries his daughter.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, well, because originally it was meant to be Gareth's brother who did, but seeing as he was going to inherit the title, he's like, I'm not having my, and I don't even want to use the word. I think that was actually used in the book, but he's like, I'm not having my son marry that, you know. We are, the tangents are tangenting today. I love where we're now up to book 8. I must not.
But yeah,
laugh
I mean,
today.
it's because people with alternative abilities were looked down on so much in that time.
Yeah.
I really do like that the Bridgerton universe is, you know, their alternate timeline they've created. You know, they got one of those wands from Loki and created their own timeline. But that's cool for this reason. You know, this has opened a world. You know, as somebody who's always loved Jane Austen, Regency literature, just love that time period, having it become more accessible. Now, I worry about people who take Bridgerton for fact, because there are people out there in the world that they watch a television show and they struggle with what about it is legitimately real, what about it is fantasy, and they just I mean, I've encountered people that are trying to tell me something that occurred because they got it from a movie.
We are going to gallop along into the carriage, and I know that we already talked about the carriage ride and between Eloise and Colin on the way to the celestial ball, but we were talking about it from a Penelope and Colin perspective, and this time I want to look at it a little bit from a Eloise perspective, because I think this episode is quite Eloise eccentric, where we saw her promenading, and we see the stirrings of sadness, of regret, of, you know, of longing for her best friend. And so when we arrive at this, you know, we're on the carriage, on the carriage, we don't ride in the carriage, we're on it. We're on the tea. I'm on the tea today, people. I'm heavily on the tea.
I think we both needed tea.
My parents are bringing me coffee as we speak, and hopefully that can sustain me through this evening. In the carriage scene, we have like Eloise turns to Colin, and she's trying to very slyly ask him how Penelope is doing. And she says, oh, I don't need to know details. I just want to know whether she's, you know, whether she's suffering or despondent. And Colin is like real suspicious moment. And he's like, what are you trying to get at? I think that was actually very much Eloise projecting her own feelings. This is how I'm feeling, and I'm concerned that Penelope is feeling the same. And she even says
she wants
on the top
Penelope
of the
to
stairs.
feel the same.
I don't think she does.
I do, because I think she wants to be able to go over as a friend. Because notice, every time she goes to someone's house as a friend, it's when they've been through an issue and she believes them to be suffering and despondent, and she wants to go cheer
White knight
them.
syndrome, just like Colin.
Just like her brother, right? So every time because really she kind of is a selfish friend, but we see that she is a good friend when she can be the person that lifts their spirits. Like she comes in when they're rock bottom and she tries to cheer them up. And so we see that with Cressida and with Penelope. So I think that she wants Colin to say she misses you too. You know, she is suffering without you. She is this. But, you know, Colin had to be the brother in that moment instead of, like, he sabotaged himself because he wanted them to be friends again. But in that moment, he wanted to get a dig at his sister, I think. So she found out Penelope is doing amazing without her. And she gets to make all of her own choices and find a husband. And guess what? Someday it's going to be me, Eloise.
You can't stand in my way. No.
You are not interrupting.
Move, bitch. Get out the way.
Pretty much. Because later when he's telling her, like, you know, and you loved her once too, like you two were inseparable. Like he says inseparable, like he says sensible. Like it's the worst word ever. Like, you know, he's tried several times.
It tortured them.
Yeah.
Him trying to
so
separate
he
them.
has to get a little dig, because I don't think he's ready to give up Penelope alone time right then. Like, I want you guys to be friends again, just not today, not tonight. I need you to not walk up to her tonight at all.
Season 4 is going to be them fighting, like, for her attention.
Oh,
her favor.
I want it, because they
I know.
fight in book 4. When after the engagement is announced, they have that little. I mean, and it's it's all in good fun, but
Yeah.
it's, it starts out like them going, who are you going to listen to? Who's more important to you, kind of thing. Like if we have an argument, you have to pick one. And she goes, I don't think I'm going to pick either of you. And they, in an argument, I'm just going to stay out of it. And they looked at each other and they looked at her and they're like, you're not going to be able to stay
You know
out of
what?
it. You're a Bridgerton now.
My brain was tangenting while you were talking, and
Great.
I was multitasking.
I did
Okay?
it to you earlier when you read that whole thing about Mozart. I heard not a word of it.
I know. I can see the eyes glazed,
I
but
was on a mission.
I know, and now my brain's on a mission. I hope the very last scene that we ever get is all the Bridgerton and all their spouses back together. Come on, Roger, Jean Paul, and come back for one
And
episode.
Shondaland, whatever that was, let him come back for the 8th.
Or replace him with Alfie from, I can't remember the actor's name, but you know who everyone knows who I mean, from Emily in Paris.
Oh yeah, that guy.
I hope the last ever scene that we ever get of Bridgerton, not that I foresee it ending anytime soon, but I hope it is the Bridgerton siblings, all their spouse, the children running over the lawn at Aubrey Hall, and it is just an all-out battle of the gods. Madhouse of Pommel, and you get to see all of their different strategies at play. That is my manifestation, putting it out into the world. Back to the ball.
I mean, they don't even have that many mallets. They're gonna have. When you think about all the kids, like
Daphne, she gifts them a new mallet set for their for Anthony's wedding present. She has a specialty one made up.
Yeah, it's
mostly
like
so she can mess with them.
Pall death match.
It was, and like anyone. I mean, not that I think that there are many Dragon Ball Z Bridgerton crossover fans, but Battle of the Gods Bridgerton style. Kay will appreciate my commentary.
I'm just thinking of dodgeball, like no holds barred.
1800s dodgeball.
But I mean, like that sort of thing where there's not really rules and it's every man for, I mean, you do have teams, but in the end it becomes every man for himself. Like, oh my gosh, that would be funny. But yeah, so anyway,
Colin, we need to get back to the actual ball.
Colin dug at Eloise, and the purpose, I just said it, like being funny, but I really do think that the reason he didn't give her that moment of Penelope does miss you too, kind of like how he was in the actual like scene where he's trying to apologize and, Penelope wants your blessing too. He needs Eloise out of the way tonight.
Yeah.
So he was not going to repair anything. In fact, he needed to dig at her a little bit to keep her away.
I think that's probably
don't come near me
part of
either.
why he told her about the marriage lesson. So they arrive at the ball anyway, and are soon followed
because he knew he was going to be standing with Penelope, and he didn't want her questioning it. Like, why are you all up in her biz? Yeah.
Yeah. So they arrive at the ball just in time for Benedict, Francesca, and Violet to follow behind them. Now, Colin goes off into the ball.
And with Benedict. They walk up to the drink table.
Thank you. They walk off into the drink table together, and that leaves Violet with her two debutantes of the thing. And Violet, this is the first time that we see her meddle, and she doesn't bring up Penelope specifically because I think she knows that it is a very sensitive topic, whatever's going on. I don't know why she doesn't meddle in that aspect, but I digress. And she kind of brings up, I don't know why you've got this friendship going on with Cressida Cowper, but I would really appreciate if you would expand. And it's like the debutantes were waiting in the wind, like waiting for their moment to get in good with that Bridgerton girl.
Right.
And like out of nowhere, we've got Mary Ann Halliwell and Miss Malhotra.
Remember.
I put in my notes. Miss Malhotra.
I know it was Miss Halliwell for sure.
Who is Miss Malhotra, yeah. So I think Miss Mary Ann Halliwell is probably one of the nicer debutantes in the season. So I would like to see her find her happily ever after, as well as our favorite queen who marries Lord Cho, because we do have nice debutantes on the season.
I want Miss Goring to find someone. That girl's getting the shaft. Just saying.
Well, I mean, she got the shaft.
We don't know that. The gossip never said that. They just said she was in a closet for 20 minutes.
I don't think
she fixes her bodice and her boost.
I think there was a little bit of groping going on, but I don't think that there was any shafts involved.
Right. And then she gets totally dropped by Fife. And
Because he
now
got what he
she is
wanted.
just desperate. She's just desperate this season. Like, she looks so sad when Benedict picks Miss
Well,
Stowell to
Lord
dance.
Fife, can you imagine what he was feeling? And I'm not empathizing with him one little bit, but I can see his little brain ticking. I'm gonna have to marry this girl if I ever get seen caught with her again. I escaped narrowly Lady Whistledown writing about me. I
Mm-hmm.
escaped that by throwing Colin under the bus with the "I would never dream of courting Penelope Featherington" comment. He escaped that narrowly. If he was ever seen again with Miss Goring, it's very plausible that it would remind Lady Whistledown and it would get written about then. And so I think that was,
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is that he's an ass.
And
And
I think Miss Goring is wondering, you know, Lady Whistledown didn't write about it that we know of, but she still wonders who might have heard the gossip, because gossip happens.
yeah,
Because every time she gets slighted, every time, like when she asked Colin, you know, are you back for any particular person or whatever? And he's like, you know, sorry to disappoint you. I mean, she gets seriously crestfallen there. And then when Benedict, like, I think she thinks her social stock has
yeah.
plummeted. And she's trying to latch onto a
Well,
Bridgerton
I think
for
when
sure.
I mean, we'll get up to the when they ask Benedict to dance, but we'll go in our order at the moment. So we've got Eloise going off with two of the debutantes, and just like Colin, can't ever be one, has to be multiple, filling multiple holes, as you will, because Eloise is really missing Penelope, and she is trying to fill that gap with as many people as she can. That maybe if I just put enough
Yeah.
personalities together, it will equal one Penelope.
Yeah, she
And that's
realized she wanted one friend, and so she latched on to Cressida, but Cressida doesn't stimulate her mentally at all. In fact, she's always correcting Cressida, who says something, you know, like
And then
saying that
Cressida
he's
starts clocking
furry
onto
when
it.
she talks about an owl.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Bouffant.
Cressida starts seeing that it's condescending, that she's being
Yes.
condescending to her. But she can't just leave it alone. Like, you know how sometimes you have a friend and, you know, they're such a good friend to you, but they, you know, maybe they pronounce a word wrong, or like I've had friends that they grew up
Richie.
believe.
Richie.
Yeah. I'm not calling you out. I'm literally thinking of a friend of mine from college, okay? But her whole family said the word the same way. Like, that's how they said it. And it's, as much as I wanted to just correct her every time she said it, I didn't, because she was my friend and I knew it would hurt her feelings, you know? But Eloise doesn't think like that. And she doesn't realize that she is just constantly demeaning Cressida all the
Mhm.
time. And when she realizes that Cressida is not enough of a mental stimulation, enough of a conversationalist, enough of, she doesn't
She's
really have,
not an equal.
she doesn't have enough humor. Like, Penelope's funny,
She's
witty,
witty.
clever. Yeah. And Eloise needs that. She needs somebody who's on her level, and Cressida isn't. So she really starts looking at the other debutantes like, maybe I'll find, maybe this one's
Well,
funny,
and
maybe this one's smart, and I
I
can't
wonder
find them all in
whether
one person.
Mary Ann Hallowell is probably our quietest debutante this season. And now Penelope
Mm-hmm.
was a wallflower. Mary Ann is not a wallflower, but she is quiet. And I wonder whether she's thinking, oh, well, Mary Ann is quiet, just like Penelope. Maybe she has a sneaky, hidden wit, charisma, charm, intellect
Well,
behind her, just like Penelope.
and it's very unusual this season, for we are seeing men try and court impact. We are
Hmm.
seeing the women stay in packs, and
Hunting in
usually,
packs.
yeah, and usually I mean, yes, you see groups of people
Well,
talking at a ball. We
isn't
saw
it
the group of
interesting?
gentlemen talking to Colin at the end of season 2, but when they are actually seeking out a female, they're going to ask them to dance, or they're trying to have a conversation for courting purposes, it's one-on-one, or
Mhm.
somebody introduces them and it's one-on-one. But this season, everything's in group.
Hold that thought for when we get up to it, because I have a point to make, and remind me that I have a point to make, and hopefully I remember the
Okay.
point when we get up to it. So speaking of hunting and packs, Eloise has gone off with the other debutantes, and that leaves Francesca alone with her mother. And once again, Francesca is trying to manage her mama. The mama, Violet, is
Trying to, that's funny, she does it.
trying to get the queen involved,
Mhm.
and on her side to get Francesca the best match possible. And Francesca is distracting her like, oh, mom, wasn't there a lord that is interested in the arts like me, the music? And she goes off to go find Lord Oh, there was several, in fact. Let's just start with one, mum. Like, calm your farm.
Calm down, woman.
Calm down. But we can 100% yet again see Francesca trying to manage her mama. And
Well,
then
and she does though. Violet is very insecure this season because she was pretty successful with Daphne. I mean, there was some bumps in the road, but she completely euphemism I want to use, but I can't.
Colin.
No, I was gonna say she shit the bed with Eloise.
But no, first with Colin and Marina, Anthony
But yes, but
and
Colin and Marina was
Edwina.
not Violet's doing. That was a surprise.
No, but she feels like she dropped the ball that how could this go unnoticed by me? And he even says to her, I've been courting her all season. And then Violet probably realizes, hey, I haven't been keeping a close enough eye on my children. I thought it was only the girls I had to watch out for. Maybe it's the men as well. And this is when she starts being a bit more of a hovercraft kind of a mama.
Yeah, over Anthony. Benedict never let her.
No.
Benedict was like, no, stay away from me.
Oh.
And I love, like, she comes up and asks him, have you seen your brother or your sister? And he goes, oh, they got away from you. Good for them. But she goes up to Colin and she's like, have you seen Francesca? And he's just like, screw Francesca. I want you to answer my questions.
Mummy, give me attention. He is a mummy's boy.
Yeah, he's like, but he pretends it's about Francesca, but totally like,
I'm going to use that.
I'm going to, not at first. I think she absolutely fell for it. And then she's like, wait a minute. He is staring open mouth. There's practically drool coming out of his mouth. This kid is toast. And she realizes again, this occurred without her notice.
Yes.
But I honestly think though, that it's been going on forever and everybody just
outside and met John Carmarthen without her. No appropriate introduction, no following any protocols out of the bounds of society. She did whatever she wanted. And that's I think Violet really struggles with control, not in a narcissistic way, but in a way that she wants to protect her children, especially after what they've been through in their life.
Yeah. Well, and she's still, just like Penelope said at the wedding season 2, I think that Violet wants to still feel relevant. Her children are growing up. She wants to believe they still need her. So she's trying to get involved in their courtships.
Well, and it's even said in the books that she was way more involved in her children's upbringing than any other lady of the ton. And most people had milkmaids and all sorts of things, night nurses to take care of their children during the night. Violet was the one who breastfed her children. That was not done by ladies back then. She saw to the actual care of her children herself. Yes, she did have help to help her, but she did the actual raising of her children herself, with the exception of
bringing in, like,
Hyacinth.
Well, Gregory too, because Gregory was only a year or 18
but he
months.
would have been weaning off milk by that point. Well, actually,
we don't know how long they breastfed.
Regency times, they breastfed for, I think, on average 3 years.
Right. I mean, he would have weaned off early because she was in a depression.
Yes.
She barely visited the kids.
Well, and also when you fall pregnant, your body quite often will just completely wean. Whether you choose to or not, your body will stop producing milk once you hit, I think, somewhere between 3 and 5 months. It usually just completely dunks your supply, which is one of the reasons why they say not to fall pregnant within the first year after giving birth, if you're planning on breastfeeding, and for your body to heal.
Right.
And for the crazy to stop. Still hasn't. 3 years deep.
I don't think mom crazy ever stops now. I think it's continuous.
I'm gonna try.
Yeah, I mean, she wanted to be relevant to her kids. We'll just get back. I mean, she wanted to still feel relevant. I think that in itself, seeing how involved she is with every single kid, except for Benedict, who openly has told her, stay away from me, woman. I mean, pretty much like, no. That should tell you just how unnoticed Colin goes in his family, because
he's the middle child. He's the forgotten middle child.
Yes, he has gone through this whole courtship. He's been through 2 courtships now, all on his own. Complete just debacle with Marina in terms of what it could do to the family and all of that. And he takes complete responsibility for it. he honestly believes if he would have acted in some different way, and it doesn't go into detail, like into his mind about how he could, if he would have comported himself differently. But like when he asked Marina, is like, if we would have conducted ourselves differently, what differently got it put in Whistledown? You know what I mean? Like, and even when he finds out Penelope's Whistledown, it's still like, what differently? Penelope didn't write about it because yes, she knew you were going to elope. And that caused her to run out of time. She had to figure out how to do it in a way that it got to you in the morning because she knew it was, that's a timing thing. That's not them deciding to elope is not why she put it in Whistledown. That's just the timing of it. If he would have never listened to reason, it would have ended up in Whistledown. She already tried to tell him once. She didn't get the time to try and tell him again. I think if she did, it would still go in Whistledown. I can't think of anything they could have done differently except actually take forever to do the marriage, even though she was pregnant. Yeah. Whatever. So it just happened the way it did because sometimes timing. But it just shows I have not been in the comment section arguing with the fandom about timing. Last night I was not up till 4 a.m. reading about chamber pots to prove my point. Oh my goodness. You've researched, and they do look like gravy boats.
It looks like a gravy boat. Oh, like, because at 3 this morning, I was Googling about regency periods, not regency.
Not the regency period, ladies.
Aunt Flo yeah. of it all.
Courses. They're courses.
The monthly courses. And I was reading
because somebody was talking about the timing of Penelope's pregnancy.
And so here I am reading. So seeing as we're talking about a ball, this is an appropriate time to talk about it. Apparently the men, because I was like, they are wearing so many layers, so many I mean, I know my wedding dress alone, which is probably about, because I had a huge...
I know what you're about to say, and I have a joke for it, but go ahead.
I had like 10 layers to my wedding dress, and I'm thinking, how are these girls like lifting up these layers to like go sit on a chamber pot, and like, do they have 100 different chamber pots? Do they have someone just on chamber pots washing them out every 2 minutes? Is there a queue to get into using the chamber pot? What is the situation for the toileting here? And then the men. And I'm like, what do the men do? They just go outside? No, there was a divider in the dining room. The dining room where people dine on food. There was a partition in the dining room where men would go and just free piss into a chamber pot. And I'm like,
could you imagine?
What if you have IBS? Okay. What are your options here?
No, listen to me. Could you imagine? Because what room does Portia take the girls in to find out what they do with their husband? Can you imagine her having that conversation?
So where? And the man comes from behind the partition and goes, "Let me show you, darling."
No, you just hear him start urinating like whomever it is.
Patty, what did I say about keeping this episode serious? You will put me into coughing fits, and then I will have to stop.
I'm just like the part where Portia thinks it's the worst. She thinks it can't get any worse. She's like, why do I have to be punished so much? And then she hears a man pee.
Stop it. Our listeners are going to hear me actively die whilst recording. But did you die? Yes, I did. Oh, who's behind?
Thinking of what man would it be? What man would it be?
You know what? I actually reckon it would be the unfortunate Mr. Finch who would be behind that.
No. What would be the best is Lord Basilia. He's already having a bad day.
And then he just runs out all embarrassed, like, cry my whole.
He comes out crying.
Penelope's like, this guy can't catch a break with my family today. Oh, the asthmatic wheezes are real today, people. Oh, I apologize.
Oh my goodness.
I love that we are 10% of our way through our notes for this episode. We are not going to get through it today. Oh.
Well, okay, you had to start talking about chamber pots, and then you
Sorry.
It just reminded me. This is that episode though, like the dining room and the inserts himself with. So we're not stayed on that
bit yet.
I know, but we stayed on the same episode.
We're just jumping about here.
I am wiping my eyes. I'm crying.
I am wheezing over here. Oh.
Okay.
The Queen is greeting the debutantes at this ball, and she is très unimpressed.
Yeah, and poor Miss Berrigan, she's got bad knees already.
I know, like, come on, girl. I mean, to be fair, I did my knees in at 29.
I was born with bad knees. My mom gave them to me.
And
DNA.
I love, oh, finally these girls are putting in some work.
Ooh,
Maybe
too much.
Too much. I love when it's like and I know that exact feeling when you've crouched down and you're like, yeah, I can get up, and then you can't. And it's like that feeling of being in a beanbag and you've got full confidence in yourself, and then you try to get up and you may be able to get out of that beanbag in front of your students,
but
they will never respect you in the same way ever again.
Like I'm gonna get out of this chair, and that happened to me. My sister had a whole like living room set of Papasan chairs, but they have a Papasan sofa, and she always had it turned where it looked like you were sitting in a bathtub, because she had it almost looking like a crib, right?
Yeah.
It was so hard to get out of. We had so many laughs watching people and ourselves get out of it.
I was reading Harry Potter to my students once, and I literally told them to go off to lunch break and kicked them out of the room so I could then roll myself out of my beanbag and maintain my dignity.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't keep your dignity. But I mean, since we're talking about the Queen, and everybody, like the whole point of the Queen and this ball is everybody's trying to show her their gifts, show her what is special about them that will draw her attention. And there is one person at this ball prior to Lady Danbury meddling who does draw her attention. And I don't know if anybody else caught it, but when Benedict is on the dance floor with Miss Stowell, the Queen is just watching him dance. Like, she is transfixed with him.
You're not even looking at the notes today, Missy. You're skipping ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to talk about the Queen.
No,
and looking at
I'll get
Benedict.
you to repeat that in just a minute, because we're not there yet. We're not there. We need to keep it in order.
I wasn't this much of a stickler to my outline.
Look, okay, don't make me enact Order 66 on you. I don't know if you know that reference.
I don't know. Just don't be a teacher right now.
Star Wars. No, Order 66 is.
I know Order 66. Like, if it's wait a minute, which Star Wars?
The one where they kill off everyone. Eliminate all Jedi.
Is it one of the newer ones?
No.
It's one of the originals?
No.
I feel terrible.
It is the original. It's where they enact Order 66 and kill off all of the Jedi. And then we jump into episode that's between, because I'm trying to think the timeline here. Anyway, we need to get back to our point.
I love Star Wars, but it's tainted for me now.
Most of it. I haven't watched.
I've seen everyone. Oh, I've not. Not TV stuff.
So the Queen, everyone is trying to show the Queen their special talents, and she's just not having a bar of it. She's looking for a jewel, she's looking for a sparkler, and she is just completely unimpressed. But Araminta comes in with the barbs. Like, I think
she is critical mother.
could put out her own gossip column, and it would be
she does.
fire. I mean, under her own name, she would actually probably.
But her stuff is lies, though.
Yes, but I mean, like,
because even with Cressida, if your curtsy was low enough, the Queen didn't care about Daphne's curtsy. I mean, yes, she said flawless, but that was about the whole performance, from the walk in, the walk down, everything.
The holding herself. It was poised. It was dignified. It was a grace and elegance, a Grace Kelly moment of just, this is a debutante. This is perfection. And we see her play that role again when she walks down the stairs to Prince Friedrich.
And I think the Queen was not so much calling her out as a debutante so much as, I recognize you're playing the game.
Yeah.
I had to play the game once. I see it. You're playing the game. Flawless execution.
Yeah.
Right. But Araminta's taking it like,
literally.
If you would have, very literally. And it's not like that curtsy is not going to get you wed.
And see, the thing is that Cressida actually draws a lot of attention initially from all the suitors. She has initially, we start up with Prince Friedrich, super interested in her. We then, in season 2, we have Lord Featherington, super interested in her. We then go to end of season 2, where she thinks Colin is interested in her. Why is it that they show her so much interest initially and then immediately drop off? Because they realize, as soon as they start getting to know her, she is poison. She's playing the game, and they don't want the game.
We see that. we see that this season
Yep.
because we see how her friendship develops with Eloise. Cressida has no substance.
Yes.
We see Cressida as a human being with Eloise,
yeah,
but she doesn't know how to, she honestly doesn't know how to social.
She makes a good first, not impression, because no, she attracts people with her beauty. She is outwardly beautiful, but as soon as they realize that she is not inwardly beautiful, they don't want to borrow it.
And I mean, Eloise befriended her out of pettiness, we know, but she still, like, she was entertaining enough to make it through the summer. But as soon as she gets into society again and she starts playing the society game, even Eloise is like, yeah, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Because she's been taught that to make yourself look better, you got to make others look bad.
Eloise had a huge issue with her own sister, Daph, when she started playing the game. So it's not just a Cressida thing. And I think as soon as Cressida started showing that side, she was like, not here for it.
But Daphne is not a person. Cressida is absolutely a person that to make herself look better, she chooses someone and makes them look worse. And that is why everybody Daphne drops off.
Did undercut Cressida. That is true. But
did she?
Not really, because Prince Friedrich was brought there specifically for Daphne.
Yes, she was not. She didn't go, I'm gonna do this, screw over Cressida. No. She was back to playing the game because the Duke reneged on his part of the bargain. And the prince the prince fell for it because Cressida couldn't hold on to him because Cressida has no substance. She's learning substance because
Daphne chose to be sensible.
Yes, that was her sensible moment. She was done with Phantom.
A bit of sense and sensibility there.
Yeah, like that seems to be the theme in every season is I'm gonna be sensible. Oh wait, I'm not. Oh wait, I am. No more fantasy. Oh wait, I'm not. But yeah, Cressida doesn't have enough social skills to hold on to a relationship with anyone, friend, romantic partner, possible. Like she honestly, although because she's not intelligent, Debling would have never chosen her. That is why Debling did not choose Cressida. It had nothing to do with her personality because I think they had a moment. I don't
think that he even valued intelligence so much as interest. And
no, he valued intelligence because he needed someone to run his estate and manage his family because he didn't want to.
Yeah, and I mean Cressida, I think, knows how to manage people, not well, but she
would not have managed his money or his estate.
No.
And although I think he started liking Penelope or started pursuing Penelope for nefarious reasons, like he has no empathy, doesn't care about her romantic side or any of that business. He only wanted what he wanted, which was a land manager and a estate manager while he was gone, so he could go gallivant and do what he wants. But in the end, I think he did value her for her intelligence and her, the fact that she's cunning and she observes and sees people because he needs that with his family. He doesn't want to do it, but he needs someone who can. And I think in the end, like, although I do believe his temper tantrum and storming off the dance floor was a little narcissistic rage, but I do think in the end, like,
I actually think that one was kind of justified to be, but we will get on to that when we get on to that episode because you and I could.
Really, he didn't see there was anything there until that moment, and he's gonna act like Penelope lied to him, like it's this big lie. What?
We will get on to that.
I think episode. It was a little overkill, overly done. And I'm not saying that to you, Sam. I'm saying that for the character.
Sam is brilliant. I actually quite have fondness of his acting abilities. Like I watched a lot of interviews with him, and I love that when asked who would he want to swap outfits with, I love that instead of picking a male, he is just like his character says, I enjoy out of the box thinking, and he chose Penelope. Loved her outfits this season, and I thought, okay, that actually I really like you for that. I love that you're confident enough in yourself to acknowledge how beautiful her dresses were. That was really cute. Let's talk about the debutantes and their goal of them this season. They are hunting in packs. And that was one of the points that I wanted to make is we have 3 of our debutantes approach the Bridgerton Bros, which is Benedict and Colin.
3 on 2, which that's not enough for both the bros. It's not enough women.
Notice how Colin, like previously up until this point, had been charming all the women. He had been very openly flirtatious, very complimentary. In this interaction, he is very much leaning, like he throws Benedict under the bus completely. What do you say, brother?
He doesn't openly address a single
No,
woman. He only talks to Benedict.
Benedict. Yep.
And when they directly address him, he just smiles
Refers
and
to
nods,
Benedict.
looks off to the side. Yep. He does not communicate. And he barely wants to in any other interaction after this either. He does what he has to, and then he bolts.
Because in the scene, he has his brother to lean on, whereas after the balloon scene, they are accosting him alone, so he doesn't have someone else to kind of buffer.
Oh, no, he was coming down those stairs with Eloise, and she's like, "Bye, bro.
Bye, outies. You're on your own.
I am out. I'm not dealing with this. I'm not watching this happen."
Yeah. So what I found interesting though is we condemned the men for hunting in packs.
Yeah.
Look how uncomfortable Benedict is when it is done back to him, and he's a male. And look how uncomfortable he says. He turns and he whispers to Colin, they have started hunting in packs. He is a male with another male. Granted, they are outnumbered, but look how uncomfortable he is in this moment. He actively is like turning to his brother, like, how can we get out of this? Imagine how the girls feel when the men approach them on their own. Francesca and Penelope on their own.
On their own.
For men to be questioning them like they're a piece of meat. Like they are a piece of meat, just like is what is happening to Colin and Benedict right now. And they are men. And they are uncomfortable.
I love that Netflix Shondaland, or if this was, a Jess Brownell idea, because it is new to this season, it creates a conversation that needs to happen, because it puts it not only in it's a little bit more aggressive when it's 3-on-1 with Francesca and Penelope, and they're already both nervous enough.
Vulnerable.
Yes. But to see it, and that happens a lot with this season, seeing a societal norm that shouldn't be a norm necessarily, seeing something that happens in society that tends to only happen to women, but seeing it also happen to men. We have that, like what Penelope's going through with the whole having to give up her livelihood, her career, her whatever. We see that from the male perspective with Mondrick in the bar and the club, seeing how women could feel vulnerable being approached by 3 men at once when they don't. Francesca had her brother watching her. Penelope had no one. She had Eloise and stuff, but what was Eloise going to do? Eloise would have done something, but it would have been bark. She's all bark and no bite.
But Benedict acts quite out of character. And actually, I didn't like the way that they portrayed this moment from, like, they had a really emotionally pivotal kind of, not emotionally pivotal, I don't know how to explain it. They had a moment that is helping us understand how the girls feel by the men explicitly stating out loud how they felt about it, but then they kind of made a joke out of it, and then they made Benedict be a little bit cruel. What do you say about it, brother? Yes. Do you want to dance? Yes. And he turns to the women and he snaps, yes. And you can see they're all a little bit taken aback from it, because it is so out of societal rules what he just did to snap at young ladies. But it shows how uncomfortable it is. But they made the moment almost comical when you can actually see.
I think it's comical because
it's rom-com season.
Well, not just that, but he's not going to get out of that situation.
No.
There's three girls. Yeah. There's 3 girls and there's only 2 men. And the girls technically cannot ask them for a dance. The men have to ask. And the girls surround them. They're up against a table, but they're literally up against the wall. They can't get out of it unless somebody leads a lady off. And he knows, and this tells me again that Benedict knows, and Benedict knows what's going on with Colin, because when Colin says, are you ready to dance, brother? Benedict is like, yes. Because he's like, oh, so you're not going to pick one of these girls. I got you. Like, it's going to have to be me. And it's literally the two of them are having this
after the conversation of, didn't you promise Anthony that you were going to try out, give the season a chance?
But I think like this is another one of those, like when they walk into the balloon scene and she tips her head at Colin and Colin's like, excuse me. And he just goes, all right, and walks off. Like, he knows what's going on. So when these 3 girls are there, they're expectant. They want to dance. They want a gentleman to ask them to dance, and they can't do the asking. And these boys know they can't walk away until somebody gets a dance. So
Mm.
he
I think
falls on
he
his
I think
sword.
he chooses Miss Stowell because it is her mother hosting the ball, so she is the most proper person to choose. And I think he also probably sees her as the less
No, we're at Constellation, that we're
oh
not at
sorry.
Stowell House.
Sorry.
But I think the reason he chose Miss Stowell is
Who hosted
I
the
think he
constellation? Do we know?
I no, I never clocked it. So
Because
Emma
I
Kenworthy.
thought this one was the Stowell, and then the next one is the Hawkins
No,
Ball.
Stowell House is where after the kiss and Penelope is talking to Debling.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he chooses Miss Stowell just because she's in the middle
Hmm.
and he knows her name. And I think that Miss Kenworthy is very, very, very confident and she comes off as
Audacious.
she knows, right. She's very, yeah. And you hear her talk around the room and she's like, I've had my whole wedding planned since I was little, so Benedict is like, no, I don't know if you've ever seen History of the World Part 1, and there's a scene where it's Madeline Kahn, but I can't, it's Caesar's wife, but they're gonna have a buffet in G, and she's got to pick her escorts for it, and she does this song, no no yes, no no yes, and I think he literally was like, no no, Goring, I remember a story I heard about you. Yeah. And or like, I don't know if you ever saw Half Baked, where when he quits, where he quits and he's like, so I think that he knew that Miss Kenworthy had marriage on the mind. Like, she's been pretty obvious about it and she's very audacious. Miss Goring, everybody's heard a story.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't do that with ladies. You might be fun, but no, I'm not going there. And so he chose the girl in the middle.
That story has gone around White's.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Look at how they talk. And I'm sure that Fife has mentioned names. I'm sure he's told this story,
and I think he
everybody
thinks
knows.
men don't gossip, so I can safely put it around White's, and what happens at White's stays at White's, and that's probably why he does. Oh, actually, this happens at that other conversation happens at Mondrick's bar, but
at Mondrick's. But the whole thing is they're bragging about their conquest, and most of the time I don't want to say it's okay, but most of the time they feel like it's okay because these are women from far away on their travel. But we've never really seen Fife go on travels or talk about them.
No, he's talked about going on them. He's talked about his world tour. But I think Fife is the kind
I don't remember that.
who would find sullying a gently bred lady as a challenge. Whereas all the other gentlemen,
it's a badge of honor. It's like a badge of honor.
Everyone else sees it as like a sin. You do not do that. Yeah. That is the ultimate sign that you are a disrespectful disrespectful gentleman, that you do not belong in the ton, because that is like the cardinal sin to them. They do not do that. Whereas Fife would see it as a challenge. And on that note, I think we really see Colin in this moment, who he's now had this moment with Penelope in his writing room study. Thank you. In his study, where I think he's still really processing, and he can't talk to the other debutantes because all he has on his mind is Penelope, and he's like singularly focused on that.
Oh yeah.
And every other girl,
he's already made his decision.
He didn't dance with anybody. Every other girl in the room has disappeared.
Yes. He did not dance with anybody at Danbury's ball either. He's not going to. He's only going to dance with her.
On that final note, I need to leave for my event in 5 minutes because I am going to a Illuminate Light Festival that they have set up in the Christchurch Botanical Gardens tonight. And my parents have been waiting desperately for me. I've now got 4 minutes before I need to leave, and I need to toilet myself and finish getting dressed and get all my winter gear on. So on that note, we only got a third of the way through our notes for today. So it is going to be a 4-parter. I thought, this is a surprise. It's going to be a 3-parter for a change.
Now, our side stories the last time were 3-parters, but the Celestial Ball has so many side stories going on in it.
It does. So for today, gentle listeners, we will leave it there and continue on next week's episode, where we get to discuss what's it where.
Yeah, we get to discuss one of the best comedic scenes on television ever.
We get to discuss sexual education in the 1800s. If you have anything in particular you would like us to cover, or any Bridgerton knowledge you would like to share, hopefully not on sexual education in the 1800s, please head to our Facebook page, The Ladies Bridgerton. And if you're enjoying our podcast, please remember to click the follow button on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you are listening. And once again, thank you for listening to the musings of two mad women. Yours truly, Tash the Kiwi.
And Lady Patty.
I
The
remembered my own
allergies.
I remembered my own sign off today. Flowers for me.